Welcome to YouTooSpain, broadcasting almost live on YouTube. On today's show, we'll be chatting with our best mate Chris from Upsticks all about how to register as a resident of Spain if you're a citizen of an EU country. Normally on this Saturday show, I say join us on the live chat, that side. But today, only you can do that because Chris and I have pre-recorded our live selves to have a break for health reasons, which you can find out all about on the regular Friday video diaries. So chat away and share your experiences with each other, either there or in the comments below. If you're watching the video back anytime afterwards, there are time codes and chapter headings installed so you can scroll to your heart's content or just settle back with a cuppa and watch the whole thing. You're all very welcome to YouTooSpain. Still alive? Let's dance! Groovy, baby. Right, then just before we get chatting, don't forget to sign up for free to the monthly newsletter from our website, YouTooSpain.com. It's your chance to stay in touch with everything to do with YouTooSpain, including loads of information blogs, offers from recommended companies, and much more. So sign up now to benefit from that. You can also find the special link below to enjoy a free account and advice from our lovely friends at Smart Currency Exchange, whom I highly recommend for when you're moving or especially if you're buying a house there. But definitely do use the link below to get in touch with them. If you can't find it, ask me, because that helps YouTooSpain out. And it doesn't cost you any pennies at all. No euros, no pounds, no whatever your currency is. It's a win-win-win with a cherry on top. Now, without further ado, let's meet my wonderful guest today. It's Chris from Upsticks. Hola, matey.
Hola, how you doing?
I'm not too bad today, actually. Yeah, and how are you?
Yes, yeah, all good, all good. Here it gets a bit warm in the afternoon in the office, I have to say.
It does, yes. I'm glad we record the show in the mornings normally. We're recording this at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's a terrible idea. Let's never do that again. Anyway, I'm going to say hello to everyone on the live chat. They're live, but we're not. But still give us a wave, everybody, and still chat to each other. I'll read all of your comments when I'm feeling better after this weekend. So, no messing about this week. Let's get straight on to the topic of the show, registering as a resident of Spain. And this is only for people who are citizens of an EU country, which means you hold a passport for that country. So the passport is the important thing. That's right, isn't it, Chris?
That's right. And we're seeing more and more people coming with EU passports or managing to get their EU passports. So we did think, obviously, we thought at the beginning, after Brexit, that everybody would rush to get an Irish passport. But it wasn't everybody's dream to move into Spain at that time, and it didn't mean that Irish passports were not going to be available for people who qualified if they just didn't get it straight away. You know, we've also seen an awful lot of people who are waiting, and yeah, so we're seeing quite a lot of EU and EU family members, especially here in the Malaga area, coming over now.
Great. And just clarify, what's the difference between applying for residency and registering as a resident? So
if you're an EU citizen, you already have the right to be here in Spain. Okay, so as we know, you don't get a stamp on entry because nobody's controlling the amount of days you are here. But you do, if you intend to stay more than 90 days here in Spain, have a requirement to register. All right, so that's what we know as residency. So when an EU person moves to Spain or comes to Spain, then they have to register if they tend to spend more than 90 days here and say, hey, I'm living here now. That's the difference. And applying for residency is when you don't have permission to be here and you have to apply off the back of circumstance. So as we regularly talk about the NLV, at that point you're applying for something that gives you permission that you can live in Spain without working, having a sufficient financial means, etc., etc. In the case of EU, a lot of the time you can apply for permission to be here off the back of a spouse or family member. The difference is that you can actually make that application in Spain, whereas other permissions that you apply for have to be made in the country of origin.
And we talked about on the last two shows actually that we did together We talked about all of the differences and variations in forms that you need to fill in. So if anybody wants to find out about that, then do have a search on the channel and you can find out. They're both called How to Fill in the Forms. One of them is about visas and the other is about residency. So let's say you're an EU citizen, you've arrived in Spain. What do you do first? Take us through the process.
Well, the first thing, there's three main things that you need for an EU residency. You're going to need to prove that you've got enough money to support yourself in Spain. You're going to need to prove that you've got healthcare in Spain, and you need to prove where you live in Spain. That's the three principles that you've got. So starting with let's start with the easiest one, which is proving where you live. Well, that is the Padron certificate. So the Padron certificate, which you've got some brilliant videos and stuff all about the Padron, haven't you, on here? Is basically a document you get from the town hall, and this document proves where you live. Now, a lot of people get confused. They say, I need residency before I get my Padron certificate. No, actually, the Padron certificate you need first. In fact, in other forms of applications, when people are trying to get maybe asylum or residency through Arraigo and actually here illegally, they still get on the Padron. Yeah, so even if you're here illegally, it shouldn't stop you getting on the Padron. So the Padron is your first point of call. That's what you have to get at your local town hall, and that's your proof of address.
And that's one thing that I guess a lot of people find difficult. I mean, we had to, in order to get on the Padron, we had to have a long-term rental, so we had to find a house first. We didn't know where we were going to be living. We stayed with friends while we searched around. So this can be a sort of a barrier to registering your residency and taking the time to actually find somewhere and agree on a contract and then get that signed and then go to the town hall. And the town hall then said, right, we'll get you your certificate in 3 weeks' time once you've filled in these forms. So it was quite a long process for me just to get to the end of that before we could continue.
Absolutely, yeah, and it varies between town halls. You've got town halls which are like Vélez Málaga, can take a month and a half. You've got town halls like Mijas where you get no appointment, walk in, present your documents, and half an hour later you've got a Padron certificate. So it's definitely worth researching where you're going and finding out how long it's going to take to get that certificate.
Great. So that's the number one part of the process. What was the second again?
So the second is, well, should we say the finances? So you have to prove that you've got enough money to support yourself in Spain. Now, generally, what happens at the appointments to get residency is you go in person to the National Police Station and they will issue you the residency on the day. And your case will be assessed on the day by the person behind the desk. As you can imagine, Spain is a very big place, a lot of provinces, so the nuances in every single police station, I mean, we've got nuances here in Malaga, let alone through the provinces, are different. But generally, for an EU citizen, you have to prove that you've got at least 1 times EPREM a year. That's what you're earning, which is 7,200, isn't it, at the moment?
That's right, yeah, 12 times 600.
Yeah. Okay, that's the minimum that you can have if you're earning money. So say you're contracted, you couldn't really have any less than that. Now, what's interesting is when people talk about savings, because they'll say, that's okay, I'll just put 7,000 in the bank and they'll give me residency off the back of that. Not necessarily, because if you've got savings, they do look at the longevity and how long that's been in the bank. They may ask you for the origin of those funds as well, and don't forget anything that you bring which is in English has to be legally translated into Spanish. That could be things like P60s if you're getting a pension, for example. So you might not be working, but you we're talking about working now in Spain as an EU citizen. They're not particularly that interested about you not what you're working abroad, unless you're then maybe a digital nomad, and you would have to have proof that your company allows you to live in Spain and work as an EU citizen remotely.
I suppose if you'd got a job, if you'd come over and somebody had given you a job really quickly, you could use that as proof of your earnings, your financial
Absolutely, yeah. So if you've got a contract, again, here in Malaga, if you get a contract, and so you would need an NIE number first, a little bit chicken and egg sometimes, you have to get your NIE number, go and get your contract, use your contract to get your residency. That's quite a normal path to residency. You'll find here in Malaga, as long as you are what they say on the alta, so you can prove that you're registered, you've got a contract, they normally don't even look too long into it. In fact, we recently did one without the first wage slip, and I went, look, we can go, But there's no guarantees about one wage slip that they're going to accept this. And they just went on the computer, looked, oh no, he's got the alibi, it's got history as well from another, so that's fine, okay. Yeah, and they let it go. Other areas like Alicante and Murcia are a lot more strict. They want to see things like 3 months wage slips at times, depending on who you get on the desk. They might, contradictory to how long they tell you you've got to register, places like Valencia want to see 6 months bank statements, I think it is, that Costa was telling me the other day. So yeah, each area varies, but you can use the contract as part of your residency application.
And so that's all of part 2. What's number 3 of the process?
Number 3 is the healthcare. Now, the healthcare can be covered by, if you are contracted or you're self-employed, what we call autónomo here, then your healthcare will be covered because you're paying it into the public system and you're already receiving healthcare or the right to healthcare through that system, I should say. And we did that for you, didn't we? I think your certificate turned up literally on the day, didn't it, that we went or something?
Yeah, it was a hell of a process going through, because I did what you were saying before. NIE number first, said social security, then getting that and getting the padron, then going for the residency, and that arrived the day before.
Now, again, more and more the police can actually check these things online, but belts and braces, always make sure you've got your proof of your healthcare certificate with you. If you're working, evidently your contract proves that you'll get access to healthcare. We recently had a case where we've got a client here, lives in Torremolinos, but actually works remotely for a company in Madrid. We had to get an extra document from Madrid to say that the person was allowed to work from their home address. Okay, but they still evidently get their healthcare through the contract. If you haven't got a job and you're not autonomo, then you will need to get a private healthcare policy in place. And that's the same requirements as we always talk about for the visa. So, you can't have any excess, no co-payments, in theory, no exclusions, and you have to have a nice certificate which proves you've got the healthcare and the proof of the payment of the policy.
And it's got to have started before you register the residency.
Absolutely, yeah. So it has to have started. It's different. So we always talk about the NLV, where you can post-date start date of the insurance because it wants to coincide with your entry date into Spain, whereas the EU has to have started before you go to your appointment. Has to be in place. Great.
So that's the 3. Anything else we need to say about those 3?
No, that's it. That's it for for EU citizens. That's the main sort of structure for the requirements when you go to your appointment, apart from obviously the application forms that we spoke about in previous shows and a prepaid application tax as well.
Excellent. So moving on, this should be a simple question, but often people get confused about which building you actually go to register.
Well, they do, because we call both of them extranjerias, don't we? So you've actually got 2 types of extranjerias. What is typically an extranjeria is the subdelegation of the government where the third country national applicants generally make their applications, which is now done online. But the National Police Foreigners Department, which we also at times call the extranjeria, is where you need to go to register your EU residency. So it's definitely not where you go, the subdelegation of the government to make an application, because they don't deal with that. It's the National Police Office that deal with it. They're frontiers, you see. They are fronteras.
Excellent. So take us through the documents you need, and anything that obviously needs translations or apostilles or certificates, proof of income. How do you do that? And police check. You need a police check as well?
No. In terms of the translation, so you don't need a police check. In terms of translations, anything that is in English, unfortunately, would have to carry a legal translation, which would be done by a registered legal translator in Spain. That could be anything from P60s to, again, we recently did one in Fingarola where there was a huge amount of bank statements, and they were all from the UK, and I was like, oh, that's going to be a fortune to translate them. And what we did was we ended up translating the P60 of the pension and just 3 months bank statements showing 3 months of it being paid, and we went armed with 12 months worth and a good explanation to the guy behind the desk saying, look, we've only bought 3 because it's all numbers, and it may seem ridiculous translating bank statements. So unfortunately, you have to. It is all numbers, but you have to translate them. So this also applies for things like marriage certificates and birth certificates. So if you're an EU family, but maybe you're a spouse and you depend on your husband, maybe you've got children that depend on you, those documents would all need to be translated. And evidently, if the documents are, their origin is a country which is part of the Hague Agreement, then they would need an apostille as well.
And that guarantees that the document is from a registered person, a qualified person.
Yeah. Yeah, so to get the apostille, the person whose signature is verified actually sends in to the FCDO their signature with proof that it's them, and then they'll have it on their books, on their computer, and they'll send the document back with an apostille. It's worth remembering that all birth certificates and marriage certificates have to have an apostille, and depending on where you're going, they all have to be dated within 90 days. Definitely marriage certificates have to be dated within 90 days. Birth certificates, because you're actually stood physically with your child, you'd say, look, well, he's there, birth certificate and child. Normally in Malaga we can get away with that, but I have heard in other provinces where they've said, no, we need the birth certificate to be updated and be a recent duplicate, basically.
And see, people do get annoyed and confused about the marriage certificate thing, saying, well, how can I have a marriage certificate that's up to date? I got married on a certain date. But you have to, it's sending off for a copy which has got an up-to-date stamp on it,
and it's pointless. And I've protested loads of times, and I said, look, it's because here in Spain you can't get a duplicate of a marriage certificate if you've been divorced. So we just have it's different in Spain. We're all registered in a book, shall we say. So I got married here, so with Lara, and we got registered in a book, and our proof of us being married is when we go to the registry office and we say, oh, can we have another updated copy of the book, please? And then the book will show every time you've got a child on it, a child appears on the book, every time someone's born. So you'll just get this sheet of paper which will show what your current circumstances. So if you were to get divorced, when you go into the registry, I say, I'll give you my sheet, my Toma, and they say, okay, yes, I'm married, divorced, and so that's how we prove things. So if I need to prove something for the children, maybe that I am still married to Lara or Lara's married to me, then we go and we get an updated piece of paper from the registry, which is where it comes from. Now, Spanish authorities think that the duplicate date on the marriage certificate represents that the people are still married. Well, in theory, it's not. If you've been married 4 times, you can go and get 4 duplicates if you want. It doesn't matter. So it doesn't really. It's not really worth doing, but that's their interpretation of it here. There
you go. So you have to do it. What's any more documents then that I haven't mentioned?
So we've mentioned the documents for family members, haven't we? Now, obviously, for the health insurance, you need to bring your certificate and the proof of payment. Now, for finances, it really depends how you're structuring your finances. So if you're working in Spain and getting paid into a Spanish bank account, evidently you need to bring your wage slips and the account showing it going in. If you've got savings, then I would say it's best to bring at least 6 months. Or if, for example, you came over from Ireland or the UK, had your money in the bank there, open an account here, I would bring at least 2 or 3 months from before, and then use that when you come here, move your money across and have a Spanish statement showing how much you've got in the bank, but keep the statements from the bank of origin just in case they ask for it.
I'm not sure we needed a bank statement for mine, did we?
No, you're autonomo. So you were registered at that time. We did take a bank statement, if you remember, because you didn't have many autonomo payments or invoices at the time because you recently registered. But normally autonomo don't need to. Really, that's here again. That's here in Malaga. They're very good in Malaga. In other provinces, I've heard where they've said, well, if the autonomo only been autonomo for 3 months and hasn't got a quarterly return, they need to show they've got at least 10 grand in the bank, stuff like that. Which, to be fair, if you're registered and self-employed, you'd probably need to have a bit of a backup in the bank anyway, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, yes. Great. Any more documents? That sounds like everything to me.
Yeah, I think that was it. So we've gone through say if there's other things like the income, for example, if you sold a property, we had one where someone sold a property and they lumped everything into their Spanish bank account. It was only in there 12 days before they went for their appointment. I said, look, I think it's best we take a translation of the completion statement just to prove where it came from. And on this occasion, they did indeed ask. They were, well, this is all very well, but this account's only been open for 12 days. Where did the money come from? We'll say, look, we know that Spanish banks now do their due diligence when money arrives, but we've also got a statement to say that they've sold the house, hence why they're here registered in Spain, because they have nowhere to live.
Okay, then. So that covers that bit. So what we'll do is we'll go into the usual short break, which we don't need, but maybe you all do out there on the live chat. So let's have a quick message from me and my alter egos, the voices in my head, about the wonderful things available to you as YouTooSpain fans. Take it away, Skatz. Are you getting the most out of YouTooSpain? I don't know! Did you know that apart from these Saturday morning live shows with expert guests, or expats with really exciting stories to tell, it's like the Graham Norton show. Bah! There are videos every Wednesday evening, packed with all the information you need, so we can move to Spain and enjoy living here. Without paying tax! No, Colonel, that's illegal. But you can find out how to navigate the bureaucracy successfully. Well said, Walter. How do I find the videos? Just subscribe to the YouTube channel, darling. And click on the bell, you useless Colonel. There's a playlist here called Video Diaries. Oh, now that is Skatz's thrilling personal story about his life and health in Spain. Still alive! Hashtag FOF. You can support YouTooSpain as well, my darlings, if you think you've learned something valuable, or if you've been entertained. Skatz looks like he needs your support. The poor bugger can't even stand up. If he was a horse, I'd shoot him. Colonel! He's not a very nice man. It's all right. He's just a two-dimensional stereotype. Aren't we all, sweetie? I'm not. Brexit! Moving on! So how do we support YouTooSpain? Use the QR code in the corner. Or there's a link in the video description below. I can't find it anywhere, darling. In the video description, you idiot. I've warned you, Colonel. I'll send you back to the nunnery. While you're watching or pausing, below the video, you'll see the title. Just here. Oh, I see it. Not far below that, there's a description of what the video is all about. It says, read more. That's right. Just click or tap on that and lots more text appears. What's the information all about? There's contact information for the expert guests and lots of links to other related companies that I recommend. And they help out YouTooSpain if you use those links to get in touch with them. There's so much down below. Does anyone have a pen? No need, Tommy. You can find everything on our website, YouTooSpain.com. And don't forget the Facebook page and the YouTooSpain community group where you can talk to other people like you. There's no one like me, sweetie. Thank goodness. Is that everything? There's a guest waiting to tell me things. Oh, I do like things. Where's Doogie Dog? That used to be his line. I'm stuck behind a wall. Oh, sorry, Doogie. I'll come and find you after the show. Thank you, Master. Get back to the show. I need to go and punch some servants. Oh, Colonel. Back to Skatz in the studio. Thank you, Skatz, Walter, Dick, Tommy, Colonel and Doogie Dog for joining us. If you have any questions for any of them, ask in the comments. They're all very healthy. It's just me that's taking time off. Okay, let's get back to the questions about registering for residency. You mentioned nuances before. What are any nuances that you can dredge up from different parts of Spain?
Oof. It's a difficult one. Now, it depends where you go. Things like, for example, here in Malaga, at times, believe it or not, depending on people's circumstances and the town hall they're going to, we have actually got away with not using a Padron certificate as long as we can prove why they don't have one. They're quite understanding when it comes to things like places like Vélez Malaga or Malaga. They know that Padrons take a long time to come through, and they understand that people need the registration paperwork to do certain administrative processes, so we're quite good. Other areas, it's just a no-no. Completely. So you have to sort of make sure that whoever's doing it or helping you, you can go and find out exactly what you need to take. Because Granada, for example, they wouldn't touch you unless you had a Padron certificate.
If you're moving to Spain, the best thing to do, move somewhere near Vélez Malaga when things are easy.
We like Vélez Malaga as a police station, I have to say. They're very friendly. I like it. It's got a nice coffee shop outside, and the other day we had a mishap with our calendar, and Tom arrived late to an appointment, and they were just very nice and let him in and said, "Oh yeah, don't worry about it." Now if that had been Marbella, they'd have told us to politely leave and come back another day. So yeah, and then when you go to places like Murcia, Alicante, I just recently got a message there from Victoria, who's helping us in Alicante. They're a lot stricter up there when it comes to people working. They want to see at least 3-month contract. free wage slips, sorry, nominas, they're called in Spanish, under your belt. And if you've got a bank account, that needs to be open for more than 6 months, apparently, there. Well, I said, well, that's contrary to what they're telling us that we have to do. She went, yeah, but that's what they asked for.
Any more fun nuances?
I think that's about it. Obviously, when you've got to make sure when you do get your card that you check the details on it as well. And don't forget that EU citizens don't get a photo card, right? So you only get that flimsy green thing that you carry around or don't carry around.
Yeah, well, I do actually. Yeah, it's in my wallet. I never touch it. It's in the bit with the plastic see-through bit. And I did hear somebody say, just be careful with that, because if that gets really, really hot, it could lift off the print on the top of the card, because it is just a pathetic piece of paper, yeah.
I've seen that happen before on occasions where people had it in their wallet, got warm, left it in the car, pulled it out, and the print's come off. It's a rubbish card, really, you get, to be honest with you. They recently introduced the Spanish flag onto them. I don't think you've got one on yours, have you?
No, just plain green.
Plain green. They've recently introduced that, but it's not the best. It's not the best card, and you cannot laminate it. You cannot deface it. I went to an appointment once in Granada in Montreal, and the policeman said after that, "Oh, make sure you laminate that to protect it." And as we walked out, I'm going, "No, don't. You're not allowed to deface any public document. You cannot laminate that. That's it. Because if you ever need it for anything, they see it's an original one. They can't do that if it's laminated. So even if the police tell you to laminate it, don't."
Yes, you would think that the police would know that, especially the police right there who give out the things all the time. But no, it doesn't surprise me.
Well, don't forget, we had a time when the guys in Montreal were actually from customs. They were national police from customs, and they'd just been sent up to cover the Estrangeria. Quick course, and in they go. So they might not know. They always generally have someone who can tell them if they ask them, but if it's their first day on the job, they're like, "Oh, that's a NAF card, yeah, go on in." We had a problem in Montreal where we had to return for a more experienced agent because we were trying to switch somebody who had an NIE on a British passport they had an NLV on a British passport which was coming up for expiry, got their Irish passport, we would switch it for an EU residency to then register their EU spouse, so their non-EU spouse, on that residency. So then they get a 5-year card and the right to work, whereas on an NLV you don't. And the first ones we did of those, to get into Spain before their passport arrives, come on the NLV. So they've come on the NLV. Some people have had to go into the renewal before the Irish passports come. Some people managed to coincide the Irish passport come with the expiry of the NLE. But the first time, you imagine we did one of those and turned up at the police station, they were just like, "You want to do what?" Go, right. You're not going to believe this. They've got an Irish passport, but they got an NLE. And they're like, "Well, why didn't they just use the Irish passport in the beginning?" I'm going, "Because they've only just got it." And they're like, "Okay, all right, brilliant." And then the first 2 times, it was like, computer says no. And then they realised how to do it, and so far it's been plain sailing now.
Excellent. The next question I've got is, how long does your residency card last? By which we don't mean how long does the flimsy thing take to break up. We mean how long does it last for before it expires?
Yeah, if you take it down the pub too much, it won't last too long.
No, 5 minutes.
I want to get it 5 years. So that's 5 years. So you get 5 years on your EU card, at which point there isn't actually an expiry date on the card. You have to count 5 years from the date that it's issued and then swap it for a permanent residence card.
Is that a difficult process?
It's exactly the same. So when I spoke to them, I had to go and check actually here about how they were handling it, because we haven't done any for a while, and it's exactly the same. You still have to prove you've got money to support yourself, you've got your healthcare and somewhere to live. What they haven't done so far is they haven't gone too much into the deeper details of your tax returns and stuff and what you've been doing for 5 years here. We've never got too much of that. As long as we present up-to-date documentation, it seems to be fine.
Right. Anyway, fall off that bridge when we come to it. So here's one that a lot of people are interested in that I hear asked on Facebook all the time. How long can you leave Spain for before you are in danger of losing your residency?
Well, on a temporary residency, it's up to 6 months, but not over 6 months. And then if you've got permanent, it's up to a year that you can leave.
I mean, it's a bit more relaxed than if you're a non-EU citizen, because you've still got a right to be there. But
yes,
they could cancel the registry of the residency, and you just have to apply for it again, presumably.
Yeah, so if you, for any reason, you get kicked off or are out too long or whatever, then you can just come back in and apply again, proving you've got your circumstance. So, it's not like you'd have to go back to a consulate to apply.
Yeah, great. Well, that's all of the questions I've got. Is there anything else that people need to know, or have we covered everything?
Yeah, I think we always get questions regarding EU citizens. Do I need a stamp coming into the country? Evidently, no, you don't. Interesting conversation I had today about coming in on one passport and then registering for residency on a different one. You wouldn't have a problem if you came in on a British passport and then use your Irish one to register, because they evidently don't check the entry stamps into it. But then that would leave your British passport with an entry and no exit, so it wouldn't be great. And that's about it, really. I think for the EU, the questions that we get asked. Obviously, there's you do have the right to bring family members, which is a completely different application. You do have to then apply for that right for your family member to the subdelegation of the government, and then once that's approved, go back to the National Police to register that card.
I remember talking about using two different passports, because I've got a British one and an Irish one. There was one time when I wanted to go to the UK and I used the UK one thinking, yeah, I'll just get quicker through the queue at the other end. But when I was coming back, I showed the Irish passport in the EU queue, and he looked at it for a while, checked on the system, and he was kind of looking confused for a bit. And I'm thinking, it's showing on the computer that I've not left Spain. I've not left the EU at all. It caused a few seconds of doubt in his head, and if I'd looked like a dangerous character, then maybe it'd have caused trouble. Yeah.
No, you always try and travel on the same passport you intend to continue to use. I think it's always the best idea.
Yeah, I prefer the Irish one anyway. It's nicer.
Yeah. So that's all. Quite a few different nationalities coming now. Some people have found Italian passports and German passports as well. And it's definitely, we're getting a bigger demographic of EU clients here who are digital nomads, moving over. Malaga's certainly very, very popular at the moment with people to live. So yeah, and a lot of people who've been researching EU, it's almost gone full circle now, because it used to be that people couldn't understand the visa requirements because they just, didn't realise that Brexit was what Brexit actually meant. And then when we found out, it is what we said it was going to be. You haven't got the right to be in Spain. Everybody's studied all the detail with the visas, and then they may have access to an Irish passport, and it's like it was before, but they don't realise. We get a lot of questions going, well, when do I get my criminal records? And then, no, you don't need one because you're EU. So people confuse the visa requirements for the EU now.
There you go. So, everyone, that is how you register as a resident of Spain if you're an EU citizen. Before I tell you who's on next week's show, let me just remind you that if you have any questions or comments, put them in the YouTube comments below, not on Facebook. Just put them in YouTube, because it won't help enough people on Facebook. If you put it here, then everyone else who watches this video can find the questions and the answers that they need. And that's lovely. It's free. It's a win-win-win with a cherry on top. And don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe and click on the bell if you haven't already, so you'll be the first to know what's coming up each week on the live shows and the midweek videos. So let's all say a huge thank you to Chris. Give him a massive virtual hug and a kiss. And we'll see you again, him or you again in 2 weeks' time, when we'll be helping more people with their Spanish dream. So see you then. Bye for now, Chris. So who do I have on the show next week? Well, I'm pleased to say I'm going to be asking our finances expert Lucia Melgarejo all about what effect the UK election result has had on your money and what you can do about it. Don't forget you can ask questions in advance on our Facebook page and group, or under any of the videos. Feel free to chat away and share your experiences of moving to Spain and living here. Thanks to all of you for joining us, leaving comments, hitting the like button and supporting us with donations and memberships. It's very much appreciated. I will see you again either on the midweek video or the video diary on Fridays, or live on Saturday mornings at our regular time of 9 o'clock if you're in the UK or Ireland or Portugal, or 10 o'clock in the morning if you're in Spain or Central Europe. That's all for this week. Someone pass around the EU residency cookies. Peace and love, peas and fluff. And here's one final message from all of the voices in my head at YouTooSpain. See you soon. Wave goodbye, lads. Bye. Goodbye. Toodaloo. Peace and love, peas and fluff. Oi, oi. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. One more cosmic dance? All right then. Look, Mum, I'm dancing. Oh, I'm all a quiver. Let's dance.